Right. Well, time now is 4:01 p.m. On Tuesday, March 25th. So thank you all so much for joining today's session. If you took a look at the flyer, you know that today we'll be discussing the retirement planning information. This is generally for active employees considering retirement. We do this once every year for both classified and non-trust, and then there will be for MTA and trust, the workshop will be tomorrow. So if you are on the line and you do need to be logged in for that one as well, or just would like to just get more information, maybe you have a spouse who is in the trust, just know that we'll be doing that tomorrow as well. For those of you who are joining and may have to, for whatever reason, drop off the line, or you just feel like you want to this is the most interesting information in the world to you and you want to watch it over and over and over again, we are recording today's session, and the slides that I will be presenting will also be available for download. If you know someone who wanted to attend, I did get a few emails, but just schedule conflicts. Let them know that this information will be available for viewing. It's being recorded as well as the slides as well. Okay. One quick housekeeping item. I know that virtual makes things so much easier for us to log in, and sometimes we have to be on the go. If you could just keep yourself on mute until you have a question or you're ready to participate, that would be so helpful because a lot of times we can hear the background noise if you inadvertently have yourself off of. So, so that's the housekeeping. For those of you who don't know who I am by now, I've been around here for quite some time. My name is Asia Simpson. I'm your wellness benefits consultant. I support you, your benefits department, and your district as a whole with everything regarding benefits, workshops, and helping to provide support if you ever have issues with your health plan. Today's workshop is going to go till about 5 p.m. Roughly. We may not need that much time, but we'll leave some time for you guys to ask some questions, and we'll close it all out with a for those of you who are still hanging around. And I am actually going to turn off the join sound because it's beeping, and we've got so many people who are logging in. We're almost over 15 at this point. So let me just turn off the join sound real quick here so it doesn't disrupt us. All right, so I'm going to start off with sharing my screen so that everyone can see the slides that I'm going to be presenting. And if you don't mind, if I can just get a thumbs up or just take yourself off mute, let me know if you can see my screen. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So what are we going to cover today? If you've attended this in the past, you know we try to keep it simple, but get all the information in that we possibly can. So what we're going to start with is some of the most important age benchmarks and talk about why that matters. We'll look at some information around eligibility for retirement. We'll talk in detail about some of the how the reimbursements and the premiums work and benefits that you're entitled to when you retire. And I touch on this because I think that it's important for people who are considering retirement, but we're going to talk on the basics of Medicare. We're not going to go into detail because in May, we will be having a Medicare one-on-one workshop, which you are entitled to, you know, you're encouraged to go to, even if you're not necessarily about to approach 65 right now. It's still good information. So we'll be doing that in May, and I'll display the flyer and that will go out. And then we'll close out with any questions, like I mentioned before. If you have any questions for clarity, if you didn't hear something I said, please feel free to stop me. Now, if it's an actual question, we'll hold those to the end, okay? All right, so I mentioned just a minute ago some important benchmarks. I like to go over this because it can be confusing which ages and for what do you need to remember these ages for. And so I like to start off right out the gate with talking about the important age benchmarks and what those benchmarks are attached to. And the first one is the age 65. And if you're not already 65, then this is going to be more relevant to you. If you are 65 and you're still working, this will still be relevant to you. At the age of 65, that is the age at which, if you are not working, you must apply for Medicare. It doesn't matter if we're talking Montebello Unified School District, we're talking about all of the working Americans here in the United States that are US citizens. You want to apply for Medicare at the age of 65. That is the age at which you first become eligible for it. If you come to my Medicare one-on-one workshop, we'll talk in detail about that whole application process and how soon you need to do that. But for the purposes of this workshop, 65 means you must apply for Medicare, okay? This is also the age at which the choices that you get to choose from for the health plan that you use, that's when it's going to change. And that is because there are plans that are only eligible for Medicare age individuals, so the age of 65 or older. As an active employee, you don't know any of that. You're just on all the plans that are available through CalPERS. But as soon as you hit 65, your choices for plans that you are allowed to enroll in changes, okay? So those are the two important things for the purpose of this workshop you want to remember about the age of 65, not to be confused with the age of 67. The age of 67, when we are talking about it anytime between a district or you're asking me questions, the age of 67 is really the age that you need to remember, because that is the age at which once you retire and you're getting your reimbursements, we'll talk about in a minute, that's the age at which they'll stop. The district stops giving contributions towards the cost of your medical insurance, okay? So this is when you retire. 67 is when the district stops contributions, but 65 applies to Medicare and your medical plan choices. Two separate things. Keep them separate in your mind, okay? All right, so let's talk a little bit about eligibility now, okay? So in order to retire as a retiree who is eligible for district, they call them contributions, but what it is a reimbursement towards the cost of your health insurance premiums. And your retirement eligibility, will also entitle you to dental and vision that you can take part in. But in order to qualify for any of that, you have to, number one, have at least 15 years of service with the district. That's number one. And then you have to be at least 55 years of age. So for those of you who started working at the district at the age of 5 years old, you still have to wait until you're 55 to retire. And that's just a joke. I know some of you are born and raised in Montebello, and so that's just a joke. Anyway, so moving on. So retirement checklist essentials. Okay, so we know that the requirement to be eligible, you have to have at least 15 years of service and be at least 55 years of age. When you meet those requirements, what happens next and you're ready to retire? Well, obviously, you want to make sure that you reach out to HR, but what usually happens is your benefits department will usually provide you with a checklist of essential items, and this is kind of what it looks like. Then the checklist, you want to meet with your PERS counselor to determine your retirement date and find out exactly how much you expect to receive. That's really going to be important. I wouldn't suggest you just retiring right out the blue without preparing and making your appointment and kind of figuring out what this is going to look like for you. So that would be the first step. Then you want to notify classified personnel of your retirement date as soon as you have it determined. And then if you or a dependent will be 65 at the time of your retirement, remember I mentioned 65, you need to apply for Medicare. And usually you don't want to wait until you're 65. So that's kind of like, you could, but you want to give yourself a little bit of margin to go through the process, ask questions before you hit 65. So 3 months before you hit 65 is a nice cushion, and it's usually what's suggested by Social Security for you to apply for Medicare, okay? And then that gives time for everything to be processed, for your Medicare to be approved, for all of that information to be transmitted to CalPERS in the event that you decide to continue with your health benefits that you have been getting through CalPERS from the district. You can continue with that when you go into retirement, so long as you go ahead and complete the step of applying for Medicare and making sure you've completed all of that. And then the benefits department will have a wonderful little packet for you that will have rates and continuation of benefits information. So you want to make sure you go through those steps. This is a very proactive way to approach your retirement when you have kind of thought in your mind, okay, I think it's about that time. It's a good idea for you to go through these steps. Okay. So let's talk about something I mentioned before. I said the word contribution, but what I really meant was reimbursements, and that's probably a better way for you to think about it. Let's talk a little bit about reimbursements and premiums and how that works for you once you retire, okay? So how do they work? After retirement, your health plans continue through CalPERS. I mentioned that before. And the premium is automatically deducted from your CalPERS retirement check. So you want to ensure that your bank account information is on file for you to get what we call the reimbursement through the district. That reimbursement, as I mentioned before, is a reimbursement towards the cost of your health insurance premiums. And in order for that reimbursement to happen, your bank account information needs to be on file. That information, meaning the document that you provide your bank account information, is usually provided in your packet that you will get from the benefits department. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Laura, if anything has changed on that. Okay. So when eligible, as soon as you become eligible, let's just say you've gone through all the steps you need to start your retirement process. You know when you're going to retire. You have provided the bank account information, and then you have retired. So as soon as you become eligible and you're retired and that first premium is due, the district will deposit your reimbursement into the account that you listed on file. So just make sure that you provide a bank account information that is current and valid for the time that you retire so that you can get your reimbursements, okay? If you are age 67, here's why we talked about those benchmarks a minute ago. If you are age 67 at the time of retirement, you can continue to get your CalPERS health coverage, but if you recall, the district stops their contributions at the age of 67. So just keep that in mind when you're contemplating when you're going to retire. If you want to retire and be able to have some type of reimbursement towards the cost of your health insurance premiums, it needs to be before the age of 67 in order to take advantage of that. It's not me advising you one way or the other, but letting you know that that is the age at which the reimbursements will stop through the district. Okay. So let us take just a quick perusal back over that again. Regular retirees are aged 55 up to 67. Remember, 55 is the earliest for which you can retire. 67 is the age at which the last age at which your reimbursements will go through from the district. Okay. As soon as you hit the end of the month that you turn 67, no more reimbursements from the district. If you retire at 67 or older, you, like I said, can continue with your insurance through CalPERS, but you will not be reimbursed from the district if you are 67 and older, okay? So what is that reimbursement amount, you ask? Okay, great question. Now, how that's really determined, that amount is determined each year. And for the 2025 year, that amount is determined by the district, and that amount for classified AMSA and MTA is $1,710. For classified CSEA for 7 to 8 hour employees is $1,682. And for 5 to 6.5 hour is $1,261. And if you're 4 to 4.5 hours, it's $841. So let's talk a little bit about how this works. So how this works is, as I mentioned before, is that you would have whatever your health insurance premium is based off of whichever plan you chose. And then the district would reimburse you based off of your classification. And mind you, these amounts that you see listed here are just for the 2025 year, okay? So whatever your health insurance premium is, the district will reimburse you up to a maximum of the amount you see listed. You want to keep in mind that if you choose a health plan that exceeds the amount that the district is going to reimburse, you'll be responsible for anything more than what the district would reimburse. So for example, let's just say you chose a health plan, a health plan for you and a spouse, and that plan was $2,700. If you are, say, a classified AMSA or MTA employee, the district would reimburse you $1,710 of that $2,700. And outside of that $1,710 that you see here is the amount of the reimbursement, that would be what you would be responsible for, okay? On the other hand, if you chose a plan that is less than the $1,710 and you're a classified AMSA and MTA employee, let's just say you chose a plan that's like $1,100. You will only get reimbursed up to the amount of the cost of your premium, which is $1,100 in this example. Okay, so it's not like you'll get that excess amount of money. You will get up to the amount of whatever your health insurance premium is, to a maximum of what that max stipulated amount is for the year. Okay, so I want to be clear on that. And typically, the reimbursement amounts are determined the year before, and usually the district will post, the benefits department will post on the benefits webpage the retiree letter that has the reimbursement amounts on it. And I will show you where to go to find that in today's presentation, just so you know where to find that information for the future, okay? So a little bit about the premiums. So one of the questions I get when I'm going through this session is, you know, what are the premiums like? How much are they? You know, how do I know where to find the premiums? Well, first things first, your premiums are usually determined by where you live. Some of you may retire and stay living in Montebello, and so all of your reimbursements will be set based off of LA County rates, which is Region 3 for CalPERS. And so the rates will be, you know, politely posted on the CalPERS webpage, and you'll be able to see what those rates are for Region 3. But not all of you will live in LA. Some of you may move to Hawaii, some may move to Northern California, to other parts of the states. And so the rates could be different based off of which plan you choose and where you live. And some of the plans are only available for the state of California, and some of them do give you the option to live in other states. And based off of some of that information, the rates could vary from region to region, okay? And you will know what that rate information is. It's going to be posted the year before they become effective. So for example, for the 2026 year, beginning January 1, going all the way to December 31st of 2026, CalPERS is going to have those rates posted during open enrollment, which is typically between mid-September, mid-October of this year. So any elections that you would make as a retiree for the open enrollment period, that would begin January 1, unless of course you retired like later this year and you needed to start your retirement with your insurance, and that like let's just say you retired in November or October, the end of October you retired, wanted to start your retirement officially in November, then obviously you would get the rates for the current year. But let's just say you're not looking to, say you're already retired and you're looking to find out what your rates will be for the next year. CalPERS always posts it the mid-September to mid-October timeframe before the year it becomes effective. Basically the same as how your plans work now. You guys don't see it now because for the most part, you guys have a very, very rich plan, so you don't really have any out of pocket at all for those plans. but it will become more important to you once you become a retiree, and especially if you're retiring and you're going to keep someone on your health plan. All right, so let's move on. All right, so what are the benefits? Well, before we get into what the benefits are, I want to make a very, very important note because this dynamic will change when you retire. Right now, as it stands, when you have questions on your medical plan selection, adding someone, removing someone, um, uh, switching your plans, whatever the case might be, right now, as it stands, you typically go to your benefits department. However, once you retire, your benefit support becomes CalPERS. So you will no longer call your benefits department for any of that information because they will not be allowed to have access to your information once you go into retirement. They don't have access to that information because CalPERS becomes your health benefits officer of your medical benefits once you retire. So all aspects of enrollment, including the things I just mentioned, policy selection, information on plan information, enrollment, eligibility, adding or removing dependents, all of that is going to go through CalPERS once you retire, okay? And just note one thing, I do help support the retiree population. So if you have questions and you can't remember who to go to with regards to the policy selection, adding or deleting dependents, you can always reach out to me and I can make sure I remind you, refer you to CalPERS, or if you need help navigating that, I'm always happy to help you with that as well. So, medical benefits under the age of 65. I alluded to this a little bit earlier, kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but I want to just clarify a little bit more here because we were talking about those major age benchmarks. 65 as it pertains to Medicare and medical plan choices, and then 67 was when the district reimbursements stopped. Speaking on 65, medical benefits under 65, which is essentially all of you who are on this call, up to the age of 65, the available plan options are the same. Even if you retire at the age of 56, you will still have the same medical plan options that you have as an active employee now, meaning you could choose Anthem Blue Cross or Blue Shield or United Healthcare. You would have all the same options that you would if you retired, say, at 55 or any age between 55 to 65. But then once you hit 65, as I mentioned before, your medical plan options do change because they become Medicare eligible plans. Okay. Now, you will not necessarily have to switch up your plans if you have a health insurance plan that has a comparable Medicare eligible plan. Let me give you an example. If you are on a Kaiser Permanente plan as someone who's not retired or someone who is under the age of 65, once you hit 65, which is the Medicare eligible age, you really, unless you want to switch from Kaiser, you won't need to really make a change in health plan. You can determine whether or not you want to do which of the Kaiser Medicare Advantage plans you want. But outside of that, you won't really need to make a plan change because Kaiser has their regular health plan that you all are familiar with, and they also have one that is specific to those who are over the age of 65. So that's usually a smooth transition for many people. However, if you have a plan such as, an example, if you had a plan such as HealthNet, let's just say you were on HealthNet under the age of 65 and then you retired. Well, there's not a comparable Medicare eligible HealthNet plan for those who are over 65. So in that case, you would need to switch to a Medicare eligible plan, and CalPERS would actually be able to provide you with a list of those plans. And if you are having problems with getting through the CalPERS and you don't know how to navigate that, I can always help you with that. But if you don't have to make a change in your healthcare plan because there is a comparable Medicare eligible plan, you don't need to do anything. The only time you would need to do anything is if you were looking to change doctors, and that doctor may not be available under your current plan and you just have to have that doctor. Or if you have a specific healthcare condition where you really need to see a specific hospital. An example of that would be some people who have gone through cancer really like the City of Hope. And if you have a plan where that hospital is not in your network, you may want to consider switching to a plan where that is in the network. So that's just an example. And if you are approaching 65, be sure to request to enroll in the Medicare plan of your choice if you are going to switch, okay? If you don't do anything at all, then CalPERS will automatically enroll you into a Medicare plan. They generally will try to enroll you into the comparable one to whatever you have. So like if you have a Blue Shield plan, they'll try to roll you into a comparable Blue Shield Medicare Advantage type of plan. But if there's not one, then they'll automatically enroll you in United Healthcare Group Medicare Advantage PPO plan. So just keep that in mind. If that's not a plan that you're at all interested in, and you find that you're in a plan that doesn't have a matching Medicare plan, then you're going to want to make a selection. Okay. So as of right now, and again, this can change each year. We're not at September. So what happens every September, mid-September through October, CalPERS will release all of the Medicare eligible plans. This information does change from time to time. So you want to make sure that you are checking during that open enrollment period. However, for this current year in 2025, the ones that are available are Anthem Blue Cross Medicare Preferred PPO, Blue Shield of California Medicare PPO, Kaiser, I mentioned that. Kaiser has two options. There's a Summit and a Summit Advantage. And then all of you are familiar with PERS, the PERS PPO supplement plans. There's a gold and a platinum. What is new about those PERS plans? I'm sure those of you who have a PERS plan as an active employee, you know that the new administrator is Blue Shield. So that's a change over previous years. It used to be Anthem. And then there is United Healthcare Medicare Advantage Plan. And then Sharp and Western Health Advantage, those are only available in certain regions. And the only reason I list them here is because if you're retiring, you may retire in a region that does have those particular plans. Down here in Los Angeles, Sharp and Western Health Advantage are not available. I believe Western Health Advantage may be available in San Diego, but not in this Los Angeles County area. Okay. So where do you go? So I told you before you want to go to the CalPERS webpage, and I have it circled here. Once you go to the CalPERS webpage, if you're looking for retiree information, you just simply click on the retirees link, and then there is a plans and rates section down here in the bottom right where you can see all of the plan options available as well as the rate information. There's also information on Medicare. CalPERS has a vast amount of information on Medicare. And then on top of that, don't forget, we do have the Medicare one-on-one workshops that we do every year for Montebello. And in fact, beginning last year, we started doing two. So we will be doing two of those Medicare one-on-one workshops, one in the spring and one in the fall. Okay. All right. So other benefits. So you do have access to dental and vision benefits going into retirement. Now, these are benefits for which you do not get district reimbursement. These will be at the cost out of your own pocket. The benefit to them is the plan is pretty rich, number one. And then number two, it's a type of plan at a cost that you may not be able to get were you to just go at it alone and go through MetLife or whomever or VSP on your own. You would likely not get these rates for this rich of a plan. And currently for the vision is through VSP. The administrator who does the deductions from your account is Coast Benefits. Typically, those deductions for your vision plan is deducted between the first half of the month. And the rates right now are $14 for single, $27 for two-party, and $37.50 for family. And then for dental, there are actually two options. And they're both through MetLife. Again, Coast does the deductions around the first half of the month. Now, the dental PPO is a richer type of plan. Okay, so you get it covers more. It's a lot more comprehensive and a lot less restrictive. Hence, it's a more expensive plan. So the for single it's 80, for two party it's 160, and for family it's 190. Now, again, these are retiree rates. I know this is not something that you're necessarily used to the idea of, because that's covered by the district as an active employee, but once you retire, you do have to pay out of pocket for your dental and vision. So for the dental PPO rates, they're a little higher, and as I mentioned, richer type of plans, less restrictive. The DHMO, if you want something a little bit more cost effective and you don't really have to go to the dentist very often, that might be an option that is more feasible for you. The DHMO rates are only available for those who are California residents. So do not, sometimes if you travel and you have an emergency, you need to go see a dentist, you may be able to get, your dental PPO may work a lot more seamlessly than if you had the DHMO. So keep that in mind. The DHMO, it's $24.30 for single, $46.17 for two-party, and $64.40 for family. One note I want to make about the dental and vision: this coverage is expected to be purchased continuously. So what you can't do is once you retire, you say, you know what, I'm going to keep dental and vision for the first couple months. I'll drop it on the third and see how I feel, and then maybe pick it back up. You have to keep enrollment continuously. Now, what you can do, however, is if you decide when you retire, you want to start off with a dental PPO, and then come the next open enrollment, you want to switch and see how you like the dental HMO. And if you like it, or if you don't like it, you can switch back to the dental PPO. So you are allowed to change the elections between those, but you cannot drop coverage. Okay. Just a couple of points for you, or tips, I should say, about the dental PPO. So with the dental PPO, you don't have to select a dentist before you go to see the dentist. What you do want to do is just make sure that they are accepting new patients at your preferred dental office that you're looking to go to, okay? And you can ask them if they are a MetLife contracted network provider, because what that means is that you decrease the likelihood that you'll have out-of-pocket expenses for services that they provide you, okay? You don't really want to ask if they take MetLife insurance. Sometimes, depending on who you get, they might not really know who that is, because the person who answers the phone is sometimes someone new, or someone who's not very familiar with how the insurance works. So you can ask if they're a MetLife contracted provider. And then you can always contact MetLife if you are just trying to figure out what dentist that you want to see. And that you can either call them, or you can go to the MetLife website. You can narrow it down by zip code, or if you have a very specific one, you can let them know, hey, this is the dentist I want to go see. Are they part of the MetLife network? With the DHMO, it is different. You actually do have to select your dentist before you can go see them. So you can pick a provider by calling the 800 number and letting them know, or having them help you search for a provider, or you can go onto the MetLife website and do it yourself. Usually you will need to create your own profile, log in with your information. And so then you can do it that way. But once that is done, once it is established who your dentist will be, then you can schedule care with your dentist, okay? I think I mentioned too before, confirm that your dentist is accepting patients. Use in-network providers to reduce costs with your DHMO specifically. And if you see your provider and there's an issue with your benefits reflecting, like you go to the provider and they say, oh, I don't see that you have this benefit, I wouldn't suggest you leave. I would suggest you call MetLife while you're at the dentist's office, And I have provided here the 800 number for both the DHMO and the PPO. And you can get a verification of coverage faxed from MetLife to your dentist just to avoid you having to leave and come back. The same thing you can do with your VSP vision benefits. I would not suggest leaving and trying to figure it out later and then coming back, because then that means you'll have to, get another appointment. And you really want to get all of that taken care of there in the office so that your dental or vision provider can update their information with regards to your benefit. Or if there is an issue on the MetLife or VSP side of things, you want to see if you can get that rectified right away. Other types of benefits that you are eligible for and you can take with you when you retire are life insurance. It is portable. They're purchased directly through Self-Insured Schools of California. Right now, the insurance carrier is Lincoln Financial. So when you get ready to retire, if you want to maintain your life insurance, you will need to purchase it directly through CISC. And then the long-term care is purchased through Unum. So if you are interested in something like long-term care, you can actually purchase through Unum. And the contact for the long-term care is Harris Kivitz. That's going to actually be in the resources section of this presentation. So please make sure you take a look at that. It will have some good information for you. I want to just take a moment here and just pause and make sure before I hop into the basics of Medicare piece of things, just see if there were any clarification questions on anything that you may not have understood. And feel free to take yourself off mute if you are on mute. And I'm checking the chat box as well. So I don't see anything so far in the chat box.
Yes, yes, I had a question.
Sure.
And I jumped in late, so my apologies. You might have answered the question. So if you mentioned that you had to have 15 years in the district. Now, if I have over 20 years of teaching, that does so I wouldn't qualify for if I retire at 60. Pardon me. I wouldn't qualify for the district reimbursement.
If you did not have 15 years with Montebello Unified School District, no.
So that's the only way you qualify for that portion, regardless of where other district you were at or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No problem. I'm just going to do a quick check of the chat box and see if anyone has anything. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat box. So I'm going to move on to this last part here. Again, this is very, 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 very basic because we have a workshop that we will be covering Medicare at, but I feel like it's important because I always get questions after this workshop around Medicare. And so I just want to cover some very basic information and then provide you information on when we will be talking in detail about the Medicare. So first of all, what is Medicare? Well, Medicare is a federally funded health insurance program, which includes Part A, which is hospital coverage, and Part B, which is medical coverage. And if you want to actually continue your health benefits through CalPERS, you are actually required to enroll in Medicare Part A and B. It is not optional. In fact, Medicare is something that is for all Americans, and it is not something, any of the premiums associated with Medicare are not reimbursed by the district. So I want to make sure that is very, very clear. Okay. Social Security Administration will determine your eligibility, whether or not you're eligible for Medicare or not. So they're looking at, like, have you worked enough hours? Did you contribute to Medicare? There are a whole host of things that Social Security looks at to deem whether or not you're eligible. And when you apply, and if you say, I'm going to keep my health insurance benefits through CalPERS, when you apply for Medicare, they submit that information to CalPERS to say, hey, this person's applied for Medicare, they're good to go, or no, they're not. And I suggest with that process, when you turn 65, that you're just proactive and you just check with CalPERS to make sure they got that information, because sometimes things can move a little wonky with that process. which is why you want to go ahead and start that process 3 months before you turn 65, as I mentioned before. Medicare is administered by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS. And the reason that I mention all these different names is when you start approaching 65, you're going to get bombarded with so much mail. So much mail. And you're going to be wondering, what do I toss and what do I keep? You want to keep things from CalPERS, you want to keep things from Social Security Administration, and you definitely want to keep things from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which is CMS. Okay. Those things for sure you want to keep. I'm not telling you to toss everything else, but make sure you keep those things if nothing else. Let's just see here. Did someone have a question? Yes, there is a part C, but we are not going to discuss that really in this particular workshop because we'll be discussing it in detail at the Medicare one-on-one workshop. Okay. But the reason I mention that because those are the two things that you are required to apply for in order to continue your benefits with CalPERS. Okay. Once you retire, CalPERS requires you to enroll in one of the Medicare eligible plans offered as soon as you become eligible. This is really a repetition of what I've already said, but it can't hurt to repeat. So I'm just saying it again. Now, you don't need to enroll in Medicare if you continue to be an active MUSD employee. It is not required because you're still actively working, okay? And here's a quick point too I want to mention. Well, obviously you won't be able to let anyone know if you were to pass, but if a retiree or a dependent passes, then the retiree or the retiree's executor is responsible for notifying CalPERS so that changes can be made accordingly. So really what that boils down to is that you're on a plan with a spouse, whether you're the employee or they're the employee and one or the other passes away, you want to make sure you notify CalPERS of that, okay? All right, so resources. I mentioned before, we've got lots of information here. We've got CalPERS, your benefits department. Coast benefits is listed here in case, there is some questions about what was debited and what was not debited from your account if you decide to do vision and dental or something doesn't look right with what's debited for your reimbursement. I have Social Security and Medicare on here, and I have my name on here because I do support you both as an active and a retiree if you need some assistance. This is a lot of information. When you get off of this workshop or this webinar, if you feel like you still need more help, please do not feel bad. Please reach out to me. I am happy to help you. I recognize this is a lot of information. And anything related to Medicare can be confusing. There is no need for anyone to feel bad about that, especially when you have the resources of someone to help you navigate it, okay? I also have on here the MetLife, VSP, and Unum information, as I mentioned before, and CISC for the life insurance is on here. And I also have on here the district benefits contact page. It actually takes you to the benefits webpage and it has a list of contacts there. And as I mentioned, want to know more about Medicare? You ask the questions about Part C. We're going to talk about Part A, B, C, and D. And we are actually going to be conducting this workshop online at 4 p.m. on Thursday, May 15th. Okay. We typically do this in conjunction with Kaiser Permanente. No, you do not have to be enrolled in a Kaiser plan to attend. In fact, there's not really a Kaiser plug on this at this workshop. It's really just the person who is presenting is Medicare certified specialist and they happen to work for Kaiser, but they do provide very balanced information. So please attend this if you have more questions about Medicare. We will also record this session, so you will be able to record it if this particular day does not work out for you. If you cannot find the time to be at this workshop and you would prefer to be online live when it's going on, we will also be hosting one in the fall, which will be Thursday, November 6th, again, 4 to 5 p.m. via Zoom. That will be recorded. Try to keep all of the time very similar in terms of when we conduct the workshop and try to keep it on the same day of the week. So these flyers will be sent out closer towards the time of the workshop. So have no fear if you are not able to jot down all the information. This information will be made available to you in plenty of time. All right, so I'm going to stop share here and give an opportunity for you, anyone, to ask some questions regarding the content that we covered today. If there's any questions that you guys have.